Nikki, Wodapalooza is coming to Cali.
So cool. I love it.
Do you? Do you love
I
it?
do. I
I don't know
do.
how I feel about it. I honestly don't
Okay.
know.
Okay, let me give you my initial thoughts. So, I first of all, I think the more competition, the better. The more opportunities for the athletes to get out there and showcase their work, the better. The more opportunities for them to get in front of sponsors and more opportunities to make more money in this sport that we know doesn't make them a lot of money, the better. Like all the fun, all the good times. Wodapalooza in and of itself is such a unique event. If you haven't gone, I highly encourage everyone to just like save up and go because it's so very much about the community. It's very like festival vibey. It's fun. There's a lot of like activation that comes into play when it comes to just like regular people walking around doing fun stuff in addition to watching watching the elite athletes. And the divisions are aplenty, right? Like you can participate in any way, shape, or form, even when you're not an elite athlete. So I just think it's really special. It's really unique. And opening that up to another opportunity on another coast is just good vibes all around. What I want to know is how it's going to be different because I do think that you can't just copy and paste like control C, control V, the exact same event from coast to coast a few months apart. Like it will have to have its own personality. It will have to have its own distinctive features. It'll have to have just things that really set it apart and make athletes want to travel to it and make the fans want to go to it. Like I'm curious to know how it will be the same in terms of all the things that we love about Wodapalooza, but how it will be different enough to still attract people to get out there and participate. And I also want to know, like, I'm just curious. I'm curious to know the greater implications on the CrossFit season as a whole, because already, like the game season in and of itself is kind of short. Like you got to train, you got to peak, you got to get from the open to quarters to semis to games in like a very distinct amount of time. And the opportunities outside of that are not great when it comes to that one track that we all really focus on, the athletes really focus on, the people really focus on. It's the most important track. But now all these other like well thought out, well organized events are popping up throughout the entire year. And there are opportunities for the athletes, like I said, to make more money and to showcase their talents. So I'm just really curious as these events become bigger and seemingly more important to our community, like how athletes decide to train and peak, where they go, and what that means in terms of the greater season for them, their greater training plans. And, do we see them at Waza Cali? Do we see them at Rogue? Do we see them in Europe and Madrid? Like, what is it going to do to their overall train? Because these people cannot train and win and peak 365 days of the year. You're just
Right.
not, no human body. Maybe Tia. Probably Tia could
Yeah,
do it.
maybe.
No other human body could do it. So those are my feelings. What are your feelings?
Oh, I have so many random thoughts on it. None of which are very linear. I think I'm hopeful it's the beginning of maybe a CrossFit tour. Like you look at like tennis tour or the golf tour, where they're playing all over the country, all over the world,
Mm,
and you get this would be the what I would consider the third big event in the U.S. I know there are other events, so don't people start messaging me shouting out their events here. I could care less. This is the third big one behind the original Wodapalooza and Rogue.
mhm.
And if it's successful, maybe it will be the impetus for other events to pop up, like big ones like this. So that's, one thing I think about. Um, I'm with you. They can't all peak. So I think it could be an opportunity for some of the, forgive the term, lesser names to create a name for themselves. Like, like notoriously, Vellner keeps going down to Wodapalooza and winning. Like he'll go down there and win and, collect his 100 grand or whatever it is and go home. But he can't do that at all of these. To your point, they're just coming off the games. But maybe the people that were 20th or 30th at the games that we love, can go to Wodapalooza and make a splash, you know, make a, and get a pretty decent check for themselves and further their career even more, which is kind of the bigger thing because there's really no money in this sport. And so this is an opportunity to funnel more money into the athletes. To your point, maybe sponsors will see them and be willing to invest more money. And then probably the only other thought I had was it'd be interesting to see how it does with bringing in amateur athletes on the opposite coast. That was always the Miami thing. It's in February. All the teams get together and compete in the Masters and amateur individuals. And so you have 1,000 people competing there. And so the question is, will that translate on the West Coast? And if so, is that profitable? Because if it is, maybe they've created the blueprint for how these events need to work, because you can look no further than semis over the last few years, and the lack of attendance at those things has been alarming. And so maybe this is the blueprint that even at semis, CrossFit's going to have to figure out how to bring in amateurs to bring crowds in to make it profitable and to grow the sport.
Yeah, they started that this year. This year at semis, there was a community event where people could participate, and you didn't even really have to do like a ton of planning. Like you could just kind of like
Yeah,
walk in and be like, "Oh, this is like there's an event or a workout here that I want to do today," and I get a cool T-shirt.
I
So,
did it. I won something. I did it.
what did you win?
I won a water bottle, a really nice Yeti water
Okay,
bottle.
okay, cool.
Yeah, it
But
was fun.
but to your point, for Wodapalooza for the gauntlet, you trained for real
Yeah,
last
but
year,
they were 2 totally different things. Like, I would
right?
not have gone to semis to do that community event. It was fun, and, shout out to Heather and her team that gave me a free pass for that thing to do it. Like, it was fun. It was not the gauntlet.
You know,
Not
I
even
know.
not even
Yeah.
close, and I wouldn't have gone to do it otherwise. And you look at all these amateur teams that go to do the real live competition, and they pay real money to do it, you
Yes.
know?
Yep, they do.
So,
But to that point, Wodapalooza Miami is also like really fun and really interesting because those teams of 3 that they offer for the elite athletes are like a very unique, distinctive team format that really doesn't matter for the greater season, like has
right,
no bearing anywhere else. So it's like unique and special and Wodapalooza specific. So that's what I want to
right,
know. Like, what is happening on the West Coast at that event that is going to be similar to that, where it's like really fun. It's fun to watch. It's fun to watch those elite athletes like team up in a way that you never are going to see them team up. Like remember the Canadian team this past
yep.
year? It was like so fun to watch those guys, and they're truly all gunning for the same podium spot. But then they were on the same team, and it has no bearing on their actual CrossFit game season. So that's the kind of thing that I want to see pop up to keep it interesting over on the West Coast.
Well, that's the question. Will that team make the trip? Think about it.
Okay.
They're Californians. If they're in Vancouver, for instance, are they gonna go to Miami? Or well, now will they say, "Well, maybe we should go to Huntington Beach instead?" And so now Miami is losing a team. That'll just be interesting to see how it shapes up, and will that open up a more interesting team for Miami, someone who wouldn't have gone that now will because they don't have to
Mhm.
go compete against the Canadian
Yeah.
trio, or maybe will they all go because they're still looking for that paycheck and there's not enough events going around yet to turn it down,
Yeah, or will
I don't
they
know.
not go because it's so close to games and they want a month off?
Maybe we're answering no questions here
I
whatsoever,
know.
but I do think I legit think I hope this is the impetus for a bigger tour, and we'll see more yet in the next couple of years. We'll see, did this blueprint work? And other events prop up, and all of a sudden you've got, if you had 8 to 10 of these things, you can make an okay living,
Mhm. Yeah.
or at least some of the athletes could, for sure.
You know what I would love to see? I would love to see this event in September be a showcase for all of the near miss athletes who didn't get to games. Like all of the like 1 or 2 places at semis below the cut line who
Right.
now they were planning on training and competing in August, and all they need to do is extend that a little bit longer to compete in September. And it's
Yep.
like this great showcase of athletes that you expected to see at games but
Right.
didn't quite make it.
Well, I know who won't be going to Huntington Beach, and that's this guy. So,
Oh, okay.
well, it just doesn't fit
Wow.
it. Like, I can't do the games and then turn right around and go to another event. So you're gonna see a
I
lot of
know.
people and brands too, for that matter, they're gonna have to choose between which Wodapalooza you're going to. And like in my world, February works for me, but September does not,
Yeah, that's
you know?
interesting. Yeah.
So it's just, but if the games went overseas, I'd stay and go.
Ooh, okay.
So this might be something that fills in later down the road for us. If the games ever goes overseas, you might see the American contingent saying, you know what, let's go to Huntington Beach and do a twofer. So
Yeah.
who knows? It's an interesting thing. I'm excited for them for doing this. I think it'll be a really interesting test for CrossFit and for the community, and hopefully great for their brand. So good luck to them.